Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DL Ignite. With me today, I've got Jon, who's the CEO from Nimble. Today we're going to talk about why CRM is not going out of fashion. Jon, let everybody know where they can get hold of you if they don't know you already.
Well, the thing is that I think that anybody who engages with another human being, in many cases, they're going to Google them before you meet with them. And so I think the first place you should start with anybody is Googling them. Maybe in the future you'll Nimble them, but we'll get into that. But Google me and you'll find that I communicate across a broad array of platforms. Feel free to connect with me on any one. And if you can't find any of that, it's jon@nimble.com.
Yeah. So I actually, last time we did something together, you actually Googled yourself and you've got a Wikipedia page.
I started teaching people that you should all build a Wikipedia page because Google loves Wikipedia.
It does.
Places it in the right-hand side of the search box. So basically, whatever you put in there, the avatar and the text and all the bio stuff gets parsed and displayed really nicely. So you can show up on page one if you do that appropriately, and it's free.
Yeah. And so according to your Wikipedia page, you invented CRM, or as it was called in those days, Salesforce automation.
Well, actually,
how do you think about that?
The thing is that CRM is an evolution of relationships, if you think about it. And we started to manage relationships back in the day with a Rolodex, if you go back far enough.
I've got a lot of business cards next to me,
Yeah. And then it evolved into a 6x9 index card recall system for following up on people, and eventually a day timer. And that's where I came in from a salesperson perspective. And I found the day timer an effective paper-based organization tool for myself. It didn't really effectively enable my team to work together. And so the evolution from the day timer was contact management. And contact management was really designed to power people's relationships with other people. But ultimately, once you build a relationship, you need to close the deal. And there needs to be some marketing and sales involved with contact management. And so SFA evolved from contact management and CRM evolved from that. And I was involved in the entire journey by pioneering a company called GoldMine, which essentially was Outlook and Salesforce combined before either existed.
Yeah, and I think people quite often probably even miss the fact that there was life before Salesforce. And GoldMine, I remember when GoldMine came out, and it was transformational because it was PC based. And remember, PCs in those days were relatively new.
Yeah.
And there was this new thing about actually networking PCs together.
That's the key.
And that was like, and here we could have something on a PC in effect as a central database, but hold all our records.
Right.
Wow.
So the thing is that I worked at a network operating system company called Banyan Vines, and I was in their field sales office. And because I was on the cutting edge, the front line of tying together billions of PCs into work groups and enabling those work groups to then share things, printers and hard drives, I saw there was a lack of networkable business software because file record locking just happened in 88, 87, which enabled network business software to be created. So not only was GoldMine one of the first contact managers or CRMs, it wasn't one of the first networkable business applications back in the day. And I think that people that work as teams wins games. It's a simple fact. And salespeople don't work in a vacuum. They work as part of a larger team, and everybody in that team touches the customer. In a typical situation, you might have a systems engineer who is involved in pre and post sales implementation. You have a salesperson, you have a sales manager, and you might have an admin person. And that's just in a particular office. And then you've got people in product management and executives in other roles. And all of these people get involved in the cycle of the customer. And what I saw as a sales rep is I lacked the tools that enabled me to communicate and collaborate as a team. I had email, but it wasn't tied to contacts. I had a calendar, but it wasn't tied to contacts. I had a pipeline, but it wasn't tied to contacts. My pipeline was a spreadsheet. My email was separate, and my contacts were basically my day timer. And so because I had a computer science background, I worked my way through college, getting that computer science degree in a Computerland store where I learned every software program on the market, and there were only 300 of them. I was able to synthesize what existed and what was missing to build a net new application. But don't get me wrong, I built GoldMine on the shoulders of other giants, right? And so when I was at Banyan, my systems engineer went to go work for a company called Contact Software, which was a plugin to Symphony that enabled you to manage contacts and tasks. And I saw that and I said, well, yeah, that's nice. I need that, but I actually need it connected to email and calendar, and I need some sales and market automation. And there's a program called Telemagic that enabled you to put names in a database and put a recall date and notes on it. And that's basically a replication of the 6x9 index card system, where you write a card down for the person you're contacting, you put notes on the card, and you put a recall date on after the phone call, and you file it based on that date. And that was what Telemagic automated. But what I saw was the need to take the whole recall idea and the whole contacts and tasks idea, combine it with sales and market automation, but to link, and this is the most important thing, to link contacts with email and calendar, because email and calendar are the key things that you use to communicate and drive meetings, which drives the results. And so by having a team networkable database of contacts that has a history of interactions on email and calendar, no matter who picks up the phone, you know who you're talking to, what's pending, who's going to do it, what's been done, who's done it. And by having that context and insights, you're able to take actions that are more effective. And the actions have to be documented, because we're human beings and we forget. The biggest cause of failure of business is lack of follow-up and follow-through.
Yeah.
And so having the ability to log a note, schedule a task, and maintain the touch cycle necessary to get somebody to a buying decision is critical, and it's basic. But the thing is back in the day, there didn't exist a tool. But the thing I want to emphasize is that the heart of GoldMine was not a CRM. I didn't envision CRM as much as I envisioned a team relationship manager, because at the heart of all business are contacts and relationships. So that's what made GoldMine so great, was that its heart was a really bitchin' contact manager. And that's what salespeople love, is something that helps them build relationships. The SFA that layered on top, the sales and market automation, was critical to take that relationship into a closed business deal. And then as it evolved, when management started getting involved in larger teams of salespeople, they needed reports and other tools to get the finger on the pulse of business. That's how CRM evolved. But the problem with CRM is that by the time it evolved, and basically Tom Siebel kind of popularized that in 1993, which was roughly 4 years after we founded GoldMine.
Yep.
By the time it evolved, Outlook existed. And so Outlook became the contact manager. And what happened was people lived in their email, in their Outlook, and then they had to go work in their Siebel, in their CRM. And that's why CRM failed, is because you don't live in your CRM. You go to it to log the shit that you're doing, and no salesperson does that. So the biggest cause of failure of CRM is lack of use, and the second is bad data. And that's what we started Nimble to fix. But I get ahead of myself.
Thank you. So in terms of putting together, you at the forefront of putting those things together, and there was a whole bunch of pieces of technology that came together. Was that something? I mean, that wasn't like you woke up one day and you went, "I need this," or was that an evolution of thoughts?
It was an evolution of thoughts, because if you think about it, I'm working in the field in Dallas, Texas, in sales, and I'm struggling with piece of paper from corporate that they called leads, and they were basically computer intelligence reports with phone numbers of IT people at large corporations. So I'd make phone calls and make notes on that paper. I put the appointments in my day timer, and And I basically do my forecast on a spreadsheet once a month the night before it was due. And that was SFA back in the 88, 87 days. And so I knew I needed a program to do some of this. So I started looking around and I found little pieces. I found Snap, which was a pipeline management tool. I found SailMaker, which was a power dialer. I found Telemagic, which was a recall date. I found the plugin to Symphony called Act, which was contacts and tasks. And I had email. And so what I did was I synthesized my needs with the solutions that existed to create a net new solution that solved the problems that I had. But it turned out that problem was a problem that millions of people had.
So you in effect started GoldMine, you built the company, and then you sold it to Microsoft, if I remember.
No, not exactly. Okay. I had a co-founder at GoldMine. His name was Alon Susser, and he did the coding, and I synthesized the ideas for the product, and I built the sales and marketing team, and I did the PR, and I ran the company on a daily basis. And we sold it 10 years later when we were doing about $100 million a year in revenue to a South African who was the distributor for Microsoft products in Zimbabwe. Right. Because of apartheid, you couldn't distribute Microsoft products in South Africa. So Bill and Steve would fly jet loads of Microsoft product into Zimbabwe, and Dana Buys would drive them over the border, and he made buku bucks doing that. And during the transition, he wanted to, just diversify, and he bought GoldMine and Heat and built a company called Front Range.
Right. Yeah. And so you then took some time off.
I did.
And you had a family.
Yes.
Which, if anybody follows Jon on social media, if you don't follow Jon, you'll find out that Jon is extremely family orientated. And his wife and his children are a big blessing in his life. But you obviously found that in your life, you decided that there was something not quite there. Well, you started Nimble.
Yes, but it was 10 years later, right? So yeah. It was a long time between GoldMine and Nimble, and I after selling GoldMine, I got a head tumor a year later and came close to dying. And for anybody who's ever been significantly ill, you'll know that it has an effect on your life. You examine your life. And in the examination of my life, I came to a conclusion that I'm not on this planet to make money. I'm on this planet to grow my soul. And the best way for me to grow my soul is help other people grow theirs. And the most important people for me to grow my soul, for me to help grow their souls, is my family and the people around me, the close people around me that I love. And so I decided to dedicate myself to be a present father, husband, and member of my community for as long as I could. And I did it until my kids were all in school. And, Timothy, I think that most people, most men, in fact, really miss the beauty of the evolution of their family because they're out there busting their butt every day. And they wait till they're 60 to retire. And I think you should retire earlier and then go back to work. But another story. But after my children got into school, I started to use social media in 2006, 7, and 8. And I saw how it's going to change the way we work, play, buy, and sell immediately. And I started to look for a relationship manager that connected to contacts because I was going to Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn and using it to build my brand and grow my network. But it was all these disparate tabs, and none of the conversations were tied back to the contacts that I was connecting to. So I couldn't reel these connections and conversations into my own personal Rolodex. And then I started looking at contact management and saw it was broken because cloud-based contact management at the time was Gmail, G Suite, and email, contact, and calendar were 3 separate programs. So if you go to a contact record, you don't have the context and insights you need to engage, the history of interactions on email, calendar, and social, and who are they and what is their business about. So you basically have to Google somebody and then go type it in someplace. And then I started looking at CRM and saw that it was even more broken, because CRM wasn't about relationships. It was about management reporting.
Yeah.
And so I saw an opportunity to not only solve a problem that I had, and I think the best products come from your own need because you're passionate about it and you understand the problem, but I saw the opportunity to empower others. And ultimately that gets back to my philosophy in life, is that we're here to help other people grow. So Nimble really is not about me making money, more money. It's about me empowering other people to build relationships that help them achieve their dreams in life. And so Nimble from the beginning was a different philosophy than CRM. And it's really more about relationships. And the fact that it is a CRM is just, it helps larger groups of people to achieve their business goals. But I think that the best CRM should be a really great contact manager. And I think that Nimble is a really powerful personal CRM, because I think we all have a golden Rolodex that we don't take good care of. And if you don't take good care of your network, then it won't help you achieve your dreams.
And for me, there's two things about sales. One is about relationships and the other about conversations.
Yeah.
And anything that can help me do those two things are important. I mean, we've known each other for, I don't know, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
And the thing that's always struck me about Nimble is the fact that it's social, and you've built it in the social age, and it's designed to work with social rather than CRMs that I've worked with in the past, which are basically a contact system with reporting for managers.
Yes. Yeah. So CRM systems are really designed for management and reporting, but you don't live in the CRM. You live in email and now more and more social, because salespeople know that conversations develop relationships which drive results. And so salespeople want to have conversations with decision makers as much as possible, but ideally not just decision makers, but their influencers as well. And so one of the things that people don't know is, how did we take this idea for CRM contact management at GoldMine from an apartment in Los Angeles with $5,000 in the bank and 2 kids and grow it into a $100 million company without any bank loans or investors? We did it by identifying the influencer of our core prospect in and around the areas of promise of our product and services. And in those days, it was the Novell reseller. So the Novell reseller sold the network to that small business, and we had the first car to drive on that highway. So we had one of the first networkable business applications. But the way that we got the reseller to start recommending and selling GoldMine was we got them to use it, because people sell what they know and they know what they use. They then started to use it, and then they started recommending it. And that's how we got to our first $100,000 a month in revenue. And with Nimble, there were no quote resellers in those days, back in the early cloud days. So we identified the top thought leaders in social sales and marketing, and we began to share their content in order to build our brand and the Nimble brand. And then we started to have conversations with those thought leaders, and then they turned into Nimble users and Nimble evangelists. And that's how we built the Nimble brand. And anybody listening to this can do the exact same thing. So if you're just focusing on prospects and customers, you're missing the boat, because there's influencers for those people that can help you scale your business significantly. But it all boils down to real relationships. And Timothy, what I'm proud of is that our relationship goes beyond the business lobby, right? We're not connected because we're both software sales guys who happen to dig social and help to pioneer social selling. We're friends because we share commonalities of life, and we connect over those commonalities to deepen our relationship.
And I remember when the first conversation that we had, you booked a meeting with me. I think it was probably about this time.
Yeah.
And you went on. We joined the call, and you said right before we talk about anything, you said you said you've got a Twitter account, which is a record shop. And I said, yes, I have. How did you know that? He said, well, I found it. He said, would you think about vinyl records? I said, yeah, they're great. And then actually, you can't see that, but behind Jon is his vinyl record collection. So the first 15 minutes of that, he's going to go and find some now. The first 15 minutes of the conversation we had was about, he got Live in Leeds out and said, this is the Who Live in Leeds. I've got this copy. And we talked about vinyl records. Now it's something that Jon and I have in common, but it's a thing that we do with everybody in life. In sales, is that we find commonality.
Do you like that album?
Oh, Bob Dylan,
Nashville Skyline. It's a classic. But that's what you need to do in life is, and I used to teach this to the salespeople I would train, is when you go into somebody's office, look at their walls, look at the books they read, the degree of the school they went to, the knickknacks they collect. All of these things are opportunities for conversations about commonalities. I call it the 5 F's of life: family, friend, food, fun, and fellowship. These are the things that the softer part of life that you connect on in order to build intimacy and trust, which gets that person to open up to you about their issues, which as a professional, you can then solve. Unless you know the person's needs, you can never solve them. And you're not going to get that by talking about your products and services. You have to ask questions and deliver solutions. But when you start a conversation, you don't immediately go, so did you sign that contract? You say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's the weather? How about them Dodgers? Or, whatever. You break the ice, you soften it, and then you get down to business. And I think that we've forgotten about relationships in the Siebel and Salesforce days. And I think that social media has initiated a renaissance in relationships to renew people's awareness of the power of connecting. And I think that sales has become a 4-letter word. I think that nobody wants to be sold. And I think that salespeople that adopt a mentality of service, that I'm there to help that other person grow, will be much more successful than the bag 'em and tag 'em Oracle enterprise sales guys. And you know what I'm talking about, Tim, because
I have no idea what you're talking about, Jon.
You were one of those guys. Tell me I'm wrong.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
I can't mention that company.
He was a top-notch Oracle salesperson, but he broke the mold. You adopted social and you transformed yourself to the point where you metamorphosed into your own gig, right? Because you probably felt constrained and were probably told, stop tweeting so much. Because
I was shut down. I was like about 2016. I was shut down. Yeah, I was taken into a room and said, "You can't tweet during office hours." And I said, "I'm not tweeting during office hours because I use automation." And they said, "We're scheduling it." And they said, "Well, the people that have told me this wouldn't understand that."
Yeah.
So, okay.
And they're the ones building the CRM systems that salespeople are using, right? So they're selling this thing that's more of a control system than an empowerment system. And so do I believe that CRM will go on forever? Yes, because it's a database that's part of a process that's a business's heart and soul. But if you think about a business's heart and soul, it's a mix of systems. And here's what the systems are. You have contacts, which is going to be Office or G Suite today. You have sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting. So essentially what you have is a series of separate islands of databases with contacts in each. And what's happened is there's silos in all those places. And the problem with CRM systems today is they're just one database of one set of records. And the most important records I think a business might have is the contacts that they're dealing with, which in Office or G Suite, every person has a separate contact database. And so what you need to do is you need to build a common database across all those different departments. And I think that's what CRM is going to evolve into, where it becomes less of a place where you go and work, and it's more integrated into the rest of the environment. And so it's one of the things that we're doing with Microsoft and evolving into the Simple CRM for Office 365 is bringing the CRM back into where you really live. You live in Office and now social. And so that's why we sort of reimagine CRM by building Nimble so it automatically works for you by building it itself, by unifying the contacts from 250 SaaS business apps, which means sales, marketing, customer service, accounting, and contacts, and then live back where you work, in your inbox, in social, or where you're prospecting, in business articles or whatever. And ultimately, what's at the heart of all that are tools that aid the salesperson. So today, when you buy a CRM, you have to buy sales intelligence software, LinkedIn Sales Navigator or Discover or Braintree, Zoom Info. And then you have to buy sales outreach software. So Outreach.io, SalesLoft, whatever. And most CRM buyers don't buy that for their salespeople. So the salespeople are doing all this stuff manually on their own, and it's just too much work. And so that's SFA, what I just talked about. And so I think CRM really should be a blend of contact management, SFA, and the CRM to serve the entire constituency, management, the sales rep, and beyond the sales rep, the team that surrounds the rep.
Yeah, there was some research recently that said that in the US, because the US sales tech is far more involved and mature as a market than it is in Europe. But the average company, and this is obviously pre-COVID-19, was spending $7,000 to $8,000 per salesperson on additional sales tech.
Yeah.
Which I would argue probably the people weren't using.
No, because most salespeople are simple. That's why they're in sales, right? If they were different, they'd be in engineering.
and things like Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is one of the best prospecting tools that there is on the market, but people are never told how to actually use it properly because they're not social. What they do is they're taught how to use a tool. Yes. And it's a bit like, I've been driving cars for a long time. But if I got into a Formula One car, I'd crash it at the first corner because I'm just not used to that.
Yes. And
it's so sophisticated. And usually what it does, it just turns people into the world's best spammers. Or they don't use it at all because they don't understand it.
Yeah. Have you gotten the connect and sell messages before? I want to connect with you on LinkedIn, and you connect, and then all of a sudden you get this message. Have you thought about any recruiting stuff lately? No, I'm not interested in recruiting.
I had this guy that basically had this app that you could get more parking spaces in your office, and I went back and I said to him, I don't have an office. And he says, yeah, but we've got this really great app and it's like, just off because I don't have an office.
Yeah. So I think that the philosophy of sales has to shift in order for salespeople to be successful in the future. And that's what we're building with Nimble is a platform that helps people to shift in
and how is that shift? Because certainly with COVID-19, there's been a massive shift to digital.
Yes. So the thing is salespeople don't work in a vacuum. They work as part of a larger team, and everybody in that team's touching the customer, but they're all in separate siloed applications in different departments. And so I think that there should be a common platform, not just CRM for salespeople, but a contact platform for the whole company. And so my philosophy is that every company should have a company-wide contact database, and everybody should have access to it. And for the people that need to do sales or marketing or whatever, they could do that. But the thing is that today CRM is really primarily for sales and a little bit of marketing people. And the data in there is just bad. It's just bad data. And so I think that we have to shift from thinking that CRM is just for salespeople. CRM is really for everybody in the company, honestly. And so today you have you might in your business, you might have QuickBooks and MailChimp and some CRM, and they're all separate platforms. They don't really talk well together. They don't work well together. And then you have Office or G Suite. Yeah. And I think that the reason why things fall through the cracks is because you have those disparate systems that don't work well together. And that's what we're working towards solving with Nimble.
Right. So I mean, in terms of the future of CRM, where, there's, I agree with you that there's clearly a disconnect.
Yes.
As you say, customer service will do one thing and sales will do something else. Do you think there's going to be any, are we going to start using, this is like real futures in terms of virtual reality or anything like that? Do you think that we'll start having meetings and connecting to people over systems like this?
So I think that nothing replaces human direct interaction, right? Yeah. Like when we had that dinner in London, it was
we had a great time.
It was good, right? It's much different than this digital side, but the digital side's better than nothing, right? So I do believe
I took John to the place in London where the album Oasis, What's the Morning Story Glory, the photo of that album was taken, and we've got a picture of each other in London where that Oasis photo was taken. Sorry, I digress.
That's all right. But I think if you think about the future of CRM, I think that the core thing that is a problem with CRM is that you work for it and you have to go to it to use it. And the problem is that we don't live in the CRM. We live, like I said, in email and social and direct in person with people. So I think that your CRM should work for you by building itself and work with you wherever you're working, because the human mind can only manage 100 to 200 contacts at any one time, the Dunbar limit. Mm-hmm. But with social, et cetera, anybody that's worth their salt, building tens of thousands of connections. So how do you remember who somebody is, what their business is about, the history of interactions that you and the team have had, and what's pending and who's going to do it? And if you commit to something, which in most cases you do in an interaction, commit to something. If you don't write it down, you're not going to do it. But if you have to go to your CRM to do it, you won't do it. And so I think your CRM should live in your inbox. It should live in your social, and it should live wherever you happen to be, and then provide you with the context and insights that you need to be effective in whatever engagement you're doing. But more importantly, the ability to take action, because it's the basics that wins games. And most salespeople don't do the basics, and that's why they don't meet their quota.
John, I could go on all night. Well, morning for you, talking about CRM, but we're at 32 minutes, so we have talked for quite a long time. Thank you very much for your time today and for your insight. It's been great, and John's been a big helper for me. You can't see this, but on the back of my book, I've got a quote from John. John's always supported me through all of my endeavors, and I really appreciate that, John. And thank you for that. And thank you for today.
Tim, I always enjoy a conversation with you, but more importantly, I enjoy a conversation that helps other people grow, and hopefully people get some nuggets from this conversation about how they might achieve their dreams in life. And if you don't remember anything, remember this, that you can get anything you want in life by helping other people get what they want in life. And the more you do that, rinse and repeat, the more success you have. But success to me isn't about money. It's about memories from moments that like these that we're sharing together, because that's all you leave this planet with, are those vibrations of those moments where you've been truly present with others.
I agree. Yeah, it's and legacy is important. Yeah.
Yeah.
John, thank you very much. Have a great day, and I really appreciate your insight today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, John. Bye.
Bye-bye.